Good evening, I'm Macy Krupasevich.
And I'm Whitney Burney. Welcome to this special election night edition of Focal Point, out of our brand new digital newsroom from the campus of Michigan State University and the MSU School of Journalism.
We have full Election Day coverage for you in the next hour. Thanks for joining us. The polls in Michigan have been open since 7 this morning and will close in just about 2 hours. Voter turnout has been heavy across the state, and East Lansing City Clerk Marie Wicks tells us MSU had a record turnout with 7,500 voters on campus. Blake Froling is live at the Brody Complex where students are still lined up to vote. Blake?
Thanks, Macy. When we got here at Brody, only about 30 people were in line. However, at IM West earlier today, it was a much different story with lines reaching as long as 2 hours. And according to a polling official here, she said that some people are sending text messages to college students telling them that they're able to vote online, which is definitely not the case. As long as you're in line by 8 p.m., you can vote. No matter how late you have to stay or how many people are in front of you. But right here at Brody so far, about 950 people and counting have voted, so that shouldn't be a problem. Now I'm joined here by Layla, who just voted. So Layla, how did it go for you?
I thought it went well. I mean, I was only in line for 20 minutes. It seemed pretty quick and efficient to me.
And what were some of the issues that were most important to you in this election?
For me, because I'm pre-med, healthcare was a big thing, and also like the immigration laws, because my family is a first-generation family, so that was important to me. But then also like education, obviously, because I'm a student, so that was important to me too. Those are the three biggest things.
And how do you think the candidates address those issues?
I think they addressed them, but I think there's a whole lot of different opinions on both sides, so it was really hard personally for me to make a decision. But I think what ended up happening was I made the decision that was best fit for me and family. So that's what it came down to for me. But I had to do a lot of research to get there because there's so much, like in this specific election, there's so much just not issues. It was more like social, you know what I mean? Like it was just crazy. But.
All right, well, thank you, Layla, for joining us, and we'll be here covering the election all night until the polls come in with the final results. So, Macy, back to you.
Thanks, Blake. Election Day is finally here. I took a trip to the polls this morning to see just how long those lines were this year.
You did?
Take a look. After one of the most controversial elections, millions of Americans will make a decision today. Voters file in to cast their ballots for who they hope will become the next president.
I'm fully grateful for this opportunity. I know my ancestors fought for this, and there's no way that I would not show up today and exercise my right to vote.
Christia Worthy says that she's super excited to be here.
I'm definitely looking for someone who values diversity and inclusion, someone who is very well posed and that could represent our United States well.
Okay, thank you. I can just go to any open one.
A day when waiting in long lines
On the second side of your ballot is nonpartisan.
means making sure their voices are heard. And volunteers tell me that people have been in line to vote since 6 a.m. Some say they're just excited for it to be over.
It was exciting. Obviously, this is an important election. So we're all anxious for the results, I'm sure.
Anthony D'Onofrio says that he's looking for
Someone who has a well-balanced view of handling social issues and the economy, and is big on, letting the people govern.
And until the polls close tonight, they'll be waiting for those results. Voters have until 8 p.m. tonight to get those votes out to their polling locations. We'll have live coverage of the results later on this evening. It'll be streaming live through our YouTube channel and also on news.jrn.msu.edu.
Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump made a trip to Grand Rapids late last night, or really early this morning, as a last effort to win over Michigan in the general election. Draining the swamp, Trump's way of saying he will rid Washington of corrupt elected officials. One of the main topics talked about at his last-ditch effort to clinch a 5-point lead against Hillary Clinton in Michigan. Topics of Trump's speech in Grand Rapids ranged from telling the crowd he'd win Michigan in the general election to his claims that the election system is rigged.
She is being protected by a totally rigged system that I've been talking about for a long time. It's a rigged system.
President Trump hit the campaign trail until early this morning with his last stop here in the Mitten in Grand Rapids. Focal Point's Julie Dunmeyer has that story.
When I say Hillary, you say prison.
They could be heard USA! Down the block, across the river, and finally in front of the DeVos Center in downtown Grand Rapids.
Very excited to see Donald Trump. Seen him on television. I think he's the real deal.
That excitement continued all the way down the line.
Trump 16! Woo!
Yeah.
Supporter Richard Britton couldn't get a word in edgewise over excited supporters.
Yeah, I do. They do. A lot of people. I'm amazed at how many people are here.
And seeing the nominee speak came at a price, and not in dollars and cents.
Yeah, he's going to be here. We're almost about 100 yards away. Been here since 8 o'clock. 2 miles long a line.
When Trump finally did take the stage, he had an important message for Michigan voters.
Today we're going to win the great state of Michigan, and we are going to win back the White House.
And Donald Trump's message to his supporters inside was matched by protesters outside, with a message that quickly became a competition.
I will not stand by and permit these people to go in and cheer this man on.
Kieran Stanlowski is protesting with others because they want Trump to see the people who are affected by the derogatory words he's used throughout the campaign. And they weren't going to let them enter the rally without
seeing my face, without seeing the faces of the people that they're dehumanizing.
A large police presence kept this event under control, but protesters say for them, feeling safe is about acceptance, not law and order.
As much as I am for this side, there's a way to maintain respect, and I'm really worried that's going to be broken.
Richard Britton says he saw a different tone.
National polls show that the women are not as much behind Trump, but there are a lot of women here that are really loud and for Trump. I think a lot of people just can't bring themselves to vote for Hillary.
In Grand Rapids, Julie Dunmeyer, Focal Point News.
And if Trump does succeed in winning the Mitten, it would be the first time since George H. Bush won in Michigan in 1988 that the state would go red for the presidential general election. In addition to Donald Trump, one by one, East Lansing recently got to hear from his son, Donald Trump Jr. Take a look. One by one, they trickled in. Holding signs and shirts, Trump supporters were in full force. Donald Trump Jr. visited Michigan State in the last few weeks leading into the election, encouraging millennial supporters to step out of their safe space.
This isn't a campaign anymore. It's actually a movement. I say this, I get criticized for it a lot. My father doesn't need this job, and instead, he chose to get in this fight. He chose.
And of course, it wouldn't be a Trump rally without at least a few protesters, even over the speakers.
Politicians.
You could hear protesters in the hall.
Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! USA! USA!
Back and forth.
Love, not hate!
The two sides win. One promoting cracking down on policy and keeping with conservative views, the other fighting against racial divides and hate speech.
It's still unreal that so much hate is being carried across the nation. It's still unreal that after all the racism, all the massacres, all the genocide, we're still not welcomed.
Alondra Alviso was born in Mexico and is now a student at MSU. She says she doesn't support Donald Trump and his bigotry.
We will not let this racism intimidate us, and we belong here too. We are also students. We also pay tuition. We should not feel unsafe on our own campus.
While students on the other side say that they support because
I'm a college student, and I want to know what kind of jobs will be available for me in the next 5 years. And every time I've seen him in Michigan, he has hit the points of bringing the automotive industry back to Michigan.
The rally ultimately reminding voters just how powerful they can be.
I mean, Whitney, being there with you, the energy in that room was absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it was really crazy to see how many people were so passionate about their views. There were people there arguing immigration, people arguing all kinds of things there. It was really a crazy scene to be.
Yeah, definitely unforgettable, right?
Yeah.
Well, Michigan has become a huge battleground state this presidential season. Both candidates have visited the state multiple times with less than a week before Election Day.
Hillary
takes
Clinton
us inside the Hillary rally in Detroit.
Hillary Clinton on the campaign trail in Detroit with less than a week to go before Election Day.
I am so glad to be back in Michigan.
But her stop at Eastern Market was more than just an appeal to voters. It tells of a tightening race in the Mitten State.
Michigan is one of these states that doesn't have early voting, but Michigan votes on Tuesday.
Clinton touched on the accomplishments in Michigan's economy.
Because of the hard work of people in Detroit and across Michigan and the Midwest, the U.S. auto industry just had its best year ever.
And how a Trump presidency is detrimental for its success.
Just last year, he said again, it wouldn't have mattered if we'd rescued the auto industry or let it go bankrupt. What is he talking about?
U.S. Michigan Senators Gary Peters and Debbie Stabenow also took the stage in support of the secretary.
Hillary Clinton in the debate after debate after debate looked presidential, and that is why she will be the next president of the United States.
I am so excited to vote for her to be our 45th President of the United States of America.
But with Senator Sanders winning the Michigan primary in March, Secretary Clinton knows that every vote here is crucial.
It has been, in many ways, a really tough campaign. But I'll tell you what, Michigan, you can make the difference.
With 16 electoral votes at stake, she is hoping the state goes blue on Tuesday.
Let's get to work. Thank you, Detroit. Thank you, Michigan. God bless you.
In Detroit, Michaela Colonna, Focal Point News.
Michigan has favored Democratic candidates in every presidential election since 1992.
This week, Michigan has seen quite a few candidates turn up and encourage their supporters to vote.
Hello, Lansing.
Among the big names in politics to make stops in Michigan this week is Bill Clinton.
We got the best future we've ever had.
The former president spoke at the local UAW 652, encouraging Michigan Democrats and Clinton supporters to show up to the polls this week.
It's close to the election. And I believe Hillary will carry Michigan if we turn out.
Michigan being a swing state has made it quite important for a big turnout in this election. And because of this, Dems have been pushing their candidates hard, comparing the kind of America each candidate will provide.
Because when he says make America great again, you know, it sounds great until you think about it. He wants a change back. She wants a change forward.
Debbie Stabenow and Gretchen Whitmer were just a few of the many Democrats there to show support, as well as get folks excited for a Clinton administration and more Dems in office.
Well, we got to take back the state house. I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of what we've been seeing just down the road in Lansing.
Many supporters were already fired up about potential history to be made.
Oh my gosh, it's just unbelievable that a woman is finally on the ticket.
Barbara Hamilton said that she's here for women.
And yes, I'm very nervous and she needs to pull it off.
Clinton ensuring everyone that with Michigan's vote, they will have the election.
I do believe we're stronger together, and you have to decide if you agree with that.
And all eyes continue to be on Michigan as more Dems came into campaign yesterday.
With less than 24 hours to go before the election comes to a complete end, President Obama made one of his final campaign pitches in Michigan, a state that has become highly contested just over the weekend.
Michigan!
The current commander-in-chief made a last-minute stop in Ann Arbor to campaign for Hillary Clinton.
I want you to tune out all the noise. And I want you just to focus, because the choice you face when you step into the voting booth, it really could not be clear.
The visit comes after Secretary Clinton's lead in the Mitten State over Donald Trump was cut to under 5%.
So Secretary Clinton had some trouble in the spring securing the Michigan vote, losing to Senator Sanders by
1.5% in the primary. But she did win the 2008 primary with a vote of 55.2%, but that is only because then Senator Obama removed his name from the ballot. The president spoke on his efforts in the automotive industry since he has been in the Oval Office.
When I came into office, industry was flat on its back. And we made some tough decisions to bring workers, management, everybody together in order to revitalize the industry.
And what lack of action might have meant instead.
Had the big three gone bankrupt, or two of the three gone bankrupt, that could have cost 1 million jobs across this country. That could have killed Michigan's economy.
He was also quick to point out Trump's stance on the auto industry.
He actually suggested shipping Michigan's auto jobs to states that don't have unions so they can pay their workers less.
And encouraged Michigan voters to take their opinions to the polls.
The good news, Michigan, is you are uniquely qualified to make sure he does not get the job.
The way they did for him 4 and 8 years ago.
I ask you to do for Hillary what you did for me. I ask you to carry her the same way you carried me.
For Focal Point News,
we will elect Hillary as president. We will remind the world why the United States of America is the greatest nation on earth. Yes,
I'm Michaela Colonna.
Let's get to work.
The polls will close tonight in Michigan in just over an hour.
Stay tuned. We'll have more election coverage after the break. Welcome back. Tonight we've got a lot of election coverage for you. We're covering the congressional races, presidential, and of course local. Be sure to check our website at news.jrn.msu.edu and be sure to tune into our show at 8. Fake text-in flyers or voter flyers from Instagram have made their way to campus. Students reported seeing signs in both Berkey and Wells Hall claiming you can vote from home by simply texting in your votes. The sign claims to be from the Michigan Democratic Party, but members of the party called the university this morning to make sure that word got out that is not only false, but not affiliated with their party. And they urged the university to get the word out to first-time voters.
Focal Point's Amber Howard is at the city clerk's office now. We're waiting to get connected with them. We cannot wait to hear what Amber has to say. The city clerk's office has definitely been busy all day long, letting people cast their votes for who they want in this presidential race, as well as all of the local elections currently. We're so excited to have her joining us as we are waiting just to connect with her so we can get all of the latest updates with them at the clerk's office. Amber?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. You are all ready to go. We're joining you at the clerk's office.
Yep. So hi, I'm here at the City Hall of East Lansing. I was supposed to interview within the precincts within the district. So yes.
We're going to come back to you, Amber. Sorry about those technical difficulties. We now switch over to some local elections here in East Lansing. The Ingham County Sheriff race is between two experienced veterans this year. The Democratic candidate is the retiring sheriff's son, Lieutenant Scott Rigglesworth. The Republican candidate is Eric Trojanowicz, who retired as the county sheriff's captain in May.
For Ingham County prosecutor, the Republican candidate is Billy Joe O'Berry. The Democratic candidate is Carol Seaman, who, if she wins, would be the first female to be elected to Ingham County's position. And for Ingham County Clerk, the Democratic candidate is Barb Byram, while the Republican candidate is Joseph W. Warner.
And last but not least, the Ingham County Drain Commissioner race is a close one. The Democratic candidate Patrick Lindman is running for another term, while the Republican candidate is George Platsis, who is hoping to take over the position. And while those positions are being voted on all day, some polling places in East Lansing ran into some technical issues this morning. At the Wesley Foundation, ballots got jammed and torn in the tabulator machine. Many of those ballots had to be placed in a separate bin to be interpreted and counted later on this evening. Also this morning, computer glitches happened at Luton Elementary School, causing voters to wait to cast their vote. The issue has been fixed and the polls have been running fine ever since. And coming up next, Michaela Colonna will talk to MSU professor Matt Grossman.
Hello and welcome back to My First Election coverage live from the brand new Spartan Newsroom. I'm Michaela Colonna. We're live today all hour today with our first ever Election Day coverage coming to you from Michigan State's campus. Our guest this afternoon is Professor Matt Grossman, who's a professor in the College of Social Science. Thank you, Professor Grossman, for joining us today.
Good to be with you.
Good to be with you as well. So we've seen this election coverage now for over a year and a half at this point, and we've seen a lot of it has been taking place on social media. Why do you think that, these candidates have now taken to social media to try and push their message out there? What, is it about the social media age that you really think that maybe millennial voters or voters in general really might connect with them through that platform?
Well, certainly the campaigns are spending more on digital advertising this cycle than they have in the past. But there's been several elections where they've tried to get their message out on social media. The difference this time is that Donald Trump's use of Twitter has gotten an incredible amount of mainstream media coverage. So he doesn't need to be interviewed about what he thinks about what just happened. He just needs to tweet, and then it makes the news.
And then you see Secretary Clinton also on Instagram. She's doing the same thing. She's putting out her campaign ads on Instagram. Again, do you think that that's a very smart ploy to try and target the millennial vote? Because Bernie Sanders did win that in Michigan in the springtime, especially in, I guess, states that he did win as well.
Well, there isn't much sign that Hillary Clinton is doing poorly with young people anymore. She tends to be doing much better than Donald Trump at this point. But she still needs to actually turn out those voters. People, the younger you are, the less likely you are to participate in an election. And so she needs to continue that outreach. But it's not exclusively in social media. They've spent a huge amount of money on television ads as well. So it's not replacing the old media strategy, it's just supplementing it.
Sure. Now, with public opinion in general, I think in this election, this election's been very unprecedented. Anything that we've seen, anything unlike we've ever seen in years past. How do you think, public opinion, or why do you think public opinion has stayed so consistent for each of their candidates? I mean, we've seen Donald Trump say, have very negative rhetoric over the past year to 6 months. And we've seen a little bit on the Democratic side as well. So why do you think that he can say or she can say something that may not be, very popular at first with voters, but then they really don't lose any or waver any support, in the polls or anything like that? Public opinion still, it just does not seem to change for them.
Well, there's extremely well-known candidates on both sides, and so it's very hard to change people's impressions of candidates that they already know and have known for a long time. Having said that, it's not that it has made no difference. Donald Trump is the most unpopular mainstream nominee ever that we've been able to discern, and Hillary Clinton is the second most unpopular. So the negative coverage of each candidate has mattered to their standing in the polls, but most people still choose between one or the other, and so they have pretty strong opinions about that. But it may seem more negative than usual, but actually the advertising has been actually more positive this time than it was in 2012 or 2008. So it's not the case that it's been a completely negative campaign.
Okay. So maybe just bringing it back to Michigan now, you did a survey with some other professors from the month of September 1st to October 30th about Michigan voting in general, and the kind of lead of it that was Hillary's going to win Michigan. But just over the weekend, we've seen her poll numbers slide, and now there's only about 4 to 5% in between her and Donald Trump, and that's why we've seen now, President Obama stopped by yesterday in Ann Arbor, Bill Clinton was in Lansing, Donald Trump was in Grand Rapids, and Hillary was also in Grand Rapids and in Detroit. So what do you think now that just over the weekend that gap has closed, and Michigan's become quite a contender state in the United States?
So the campaigns are certainly acting that way, but it only happened at the very end. They had each spent very little in Michigan, and then in the last week they spent $5 million in television ads. So, and they spent a good portion of the week here. So they obviously saw something that they thought it was potentially a winnable state for Donald Trump. I'm still skeptical. We were about 5% more to the Democratic side than Pennsylvania, for example, in the last election. I don't see any reason why that won't continue this time. But the Comey letter did change at least who was responding to surveys, if not their actual opinions. And so it did make Donald Trump rise in the polls considerably in the last week, but not necessarily enough to actually win.
Now, do you think another reason why all of these candidates have come to Michigan is because we don't have early voting? And so it's become much more difficult for pollsters and news organizations to kind of figure out who might win the state, because today's the day. This is where they're getting all of their information from. On just one day, they don't have anything before or pre-November 8th to kind of decide or kind of say, well, I think it might lean one way or the other.
Yes, it's certainly true that especially the Clinton campaign spent a lot more time in the early voting states of North Carolina and Florida leading up, and then they switched to Pennsylvania and Michigan, where almost everybody votes on election day. So that was certainly their strategy. Another thing that's changed in the last few weeks is it was really looking like this would be a relatively low turnout election, especially in Michigan. that would be lower than 2012, but now that it's quite competitive and the candidates have been here to amp up their bases, it's not necessarily looking like it will be a lower turnout election anymore.
Yeah. Well, thank you very, very much for your time. I really appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you.
So thank you again for talking with us today. You are watching live My First Election coverage from the Spartan Newsroom on Michigan State's campus.
And we are back, and I'm so excited to say that Michael Sandoval from the Michigan State College Democrats and Emily Kovac from the Michigan State College Republicans are here to join me today. Thank you guys so much for joining me here today. My questions for you guys start out with, how do you think that your candidate has appealed to millennials with this election season?
Our candidate has definitely appealed to a lot of millennials during election season. One of the first things is he appeals to a safer America. He appeals to a more traditional America. He appeals to the America that our parents had that they want to give to us. Donald Trump Jr. was quoted saying at his rally that this is the first time in American history that we are possibly handing our young people a lesser America than what our parents had. So he definitely appeals to just the fact that, like, when you grow up and you graduate, you're going to have a better nation to live in than what has been promised to you. So a lot of millennials really support that.
Well, thank you for having me here tonight. I think one of the things that Hillary Clinton has done well over the last few months is sort of utilize the power that she's gotten from the endorsement of Bernie Sanders, because as we all know, Bernie Sanders did give her a run for her money in the primary, especially as it relates to millennial voters. I think Bernie Sanders going all out the way he did in his support for her has helped her in a way to gain the millennial vote that she lost from her time in the primary. I think we have seen the millennials kind of come back to Hillary Clinton. In a poll that I saw today, millennial support for Hillary Clinton compared to Donald Trump is 57 to 20%. So these numbers are the same numbers that Barack Obama had around this time in 2012. I think that millennials see the vision that Hillary Clinton wants for this country, know that we are stronger together, and that at the end of the day, love always trumps hate, and that is what they will support. That is why they will support Hillary Clinton tonight.
So kind of tying in with that for both of you guys, my final question is, how much of an impact do you think the millennials are going to have this year on this election?
I definitely believe the millennials will have a huge impact because this is directly affecting their future like it never has before in any other election. The stakes are very high at this election, and I believe the millennials realize that. They realize that the choices they make in this election are going to dictate the next several years of their lives, their jobs, their security, and things like that.
I think the millennial voice will be heard far and wide this election. I know from things that I've read that the millennial population, those between the ages of 18 and 35, that population of the electorate is larger than that of the baby boomers, of those over the age of 55. So we're talking about millions upon millions of new first-time voters who are voting today and have voted already, who will affect this election in ways that we will see tonight, tomorrow, and for the months to come. And in ways that we'll continue to see over the next few presidential elections.
So as you both said, the millennials are going to have a huge impact on this year's election. We want to thank you both for giving your input. Thanks again to Michael and Emily for joining us today. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Please stay tuned here on our website live and everywhere else that we have coverage. We'll be right back. And we are back. The high-profile events and rallies from coast to coast have landed Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump as the major party nominees for president. But it's the grassroots campaigns and individual volunteers that can really make a difference at the rally box.
Our need right now is phone banking.
Team Clinton
Today, would you be voting for Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton?
and Team Trump. Two Lansing offices separated by large differences in policy, but only 0.6 miles away from each other.
I am a volunteer working with a great group of young people getting the vote out for Hillary.
We're just trying to get out the vote for Mr. Trump, so as many people as we can get to turn out and vote for him is the goal.
The Clinton and Trump campaigns have been busy phone banking and canvassing each day leading up to the election.
I let them know why I'm interested in supporting Hillary. And then we find out whether or not they're interested in coming in to volunteer to do phone banking, telephoning calls.
And Mr. Trump is clearly the better candidate in this election, so we have I think we have a good shot and we have good arguments for him.
And with all eyes on the White House, both campaigns are working long hours and pushing hard for each and every vote.
The Clinton campaign has focused its efforts on the importance of the election and why Hillary should be the next president.
And she's been through a lot, but she's been resilient, she's been persistent, and we want that kind of effort and energy in the White House.
While the Trump campaign is trying to help voters better understand his policies.
And you find that most of their hesitancy in voting for Mr. Trump or not knowing who they're going to vote for is that they really don't fully understand each issue, or they're just going off one thing that they heard CNN report on.
Trump supporters like Sam Barkey are excited for a change in establishment politics.
I mean, if you're voting for Hillary Clinton, you're saying that the last 8 years were great, because Hillary Clinton is a third term for Obama.
Clinton supporters like Rose Hunt are looking forward to a continuation of President Obama's policies.
Personally, I want to maintain what has been happening in our economy, in our country.
And with the election right around the corner, both sides are hoping to make one last pitch to Michigan residents.
We're depending on you. Hillary's depending on you. All the Michigan Democrats are depending on you. We need your vote, because one vote can make a difference.
You know, Hillary's slogan is "I'm with her." His slogan is "I'm with you." So Mr. Trump's going to be fighting on our behalf, and that's really what we try to sell him on.
Bernie Sanders visited a few weeks ago, and the student turnout was much smaller compared to last year's visit.
It's important that we work hard to get the candidate who is backed by somebody that we all so strongly believed in elected.
Megan Keneally backed Bernie Sanders in the primary, but like the senator, she has now shifted her support to Hillary Clinton.
If Bernie is somebody who is big enough to have run a whole campaign based on his own beliefs and had those, just had it not work out, and he can stand behind her in order for the greater good, I think we all should be able to too.
Thank you all for coming out.
Bernie highlighted policy similarities between the secretary and himself on education, job creation, and wages.
And that is why she believes and I believe that we've got to raise the minimum wage in this country from a 7.25 federal minimum wage to a living wage.
And he expressed his concerns of a Trump presidency.
We have a candidate for president who is running for president on a policy of bigotry.
But not all of his supporters are Hillary fans. Many understand the hesitancy of voting for the former Secretary of State.
It's difficult to immediately switch and then say, I'm against establishment politics, and then you have to choose between a Democrat establishment or someone who is very far off base from what the Democratic Party says.
Although his name is no longer on the ballot, his visit to Michigan State has left students confident in the senator's decision.
The fact that he is backing Hillary in such an important election is something that says a lot about his character rather than just his desire for power.
And hopeful for November. For Focal Point News,
let us elect Hillary Clinton. Let's transform America. Thank you very much.
I'm Michaela Colonna.
Currently, 46% of the U.S. Senate has endorsed Hillary Clinton for president. An hour there and back, $60 a plate, and in the midst of midterms, all things that didn't stop the Michigan Federation of College Republicans from attending a visit by Pence to Macomb County in Metro Detroit.
Without any further ado, the next Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence.
When you come to stuff like this, you feel the excitement, there's electricity in the air.
The type of electricity only a presidential campaign can bring. And Republican vice presidential candidate Mike Pence brought just that to this year's Lincoln Day dinner.
Karen and I are delighted to be with you. We feel so at home in Macomb.
In my card, you got
Charlie Colleen, chairman of the Michigan Federation of College Republicans, says while Donald Trump has the business skills, Pence provides the background in politics.
To that, my fellow Republicans, let's be sure to roll our sleeves up and be involved.
I think people know when they elect him what they can expect, and that's the anchor to the ticket.
On top of bringing experience, Charlie says Pence does one more thing, unites a once feared divided Republican Party.
Let me make you a promise.
With Donald Trump choosing him as his running mate, that solidified his views are conservative.
And Pence says he and Trump's plan is good for Michigan business owners.
We're going to lower business taxes so companies in Michigan can compete and keep jobs right here in Michigan.
He says they're going to do that by doing what worked in the past.
We're going to do what worked in the 1980s. We're going to cut taxes across the board for working
Charlie
families,
says
small
these
businesses.
conservative values are part of a common misconception about his generation.
So often you're just told like young people are not attracted to conservative values or the Republican Party in general, which isn't true.
Charlie's organization had 4 tables full of conservative millennials.
People are giving like very valuable time up to come to this, and
Charlie says that laying off the books to hit the real world lessons shows what matters to students like him.
Thank you very much.
In Macomb County, Julie Dunmeyer, Focal Point News.
And on the ballot for Ingham County residents, Potter Park's zoo millage is up for renewal. Focal Point's Julie Dunmeyer shows us what will happen if that renewal doesn't pass.
I have a group that would like to share what their experiment looked like. And how
For 1 week, kids like Matthew Wolchen have lessons with bald eagles and at exhibits instead of a classroom. It's a big zoo lesson for local elementary school students.
Well, I feel like I get to see things like live here, and I don't see a lot of live things at my class.
That's because this classroom is one you can feel and see.
So what were your top 5 favorite moments?
And 4th grade teacher Sarah Nemeth says she looks forward to this lesson every year.
This is an experience that so many kids don't get.
An experience made possible by tax dollars. But that funding could go away if voters don't approve Potter Park's millage renewal on November 8th.
It allows us to do all the amazing things that we've had success with here, our education programs. We do a lot of conservation programs.
The Potter Park Zoo millage is for 0.41 mils. So that means for families with a property value of $100,000 have a state taxable value of $50,000, or another way to think about that is just half your property value. So those families would pay $20.50 per year for the millage if renewed. And kids like Matthew Wolchen say that money is well spent.
I just think that it's special that I get to stay here all day.
Yesterday was our first day and the kids were exhausted, but I had a couple who actually said it was the best day of my life.
The zoo pays for most of its education and operations with the millage. They say gate prices alone aren't enough to fund the zoo.
There's no way you can run an institution like that from just gate alone.
If renewed, the millage would stand for 5 years, up for renewal again in 2020. And at the end of the day, these kids and teachers say they learn more here hands-on than in the classroom.
Yesterday, we ripped open owl pellets.
In Lansing, Julie Dunmeyer, Focal Point News.
And the zoo millage started in 2006 when the country took over the park's operation and maintenance as it was too expensive for the city of Lansing to afford. And the city still owns the zoo, it's just operated by Ingham County. That's all we have for you right now.
Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to watch our show at 8. You can also watch coverage and get news updates on news.jrn.msu.edu. See you at 8.